channel. I'm so glad that you are here tuning into this week's video. My name is Victoria and this is my third episode to my 5-episode series on self-growth. So I titled this week's video, Don't Let Culture Blind You, because we really are blind to the fact that we allow culture to set the standards in our daily and personal lives. And so the main point of this episode is to identify what standards culture has already set in our lives and to understand you aren't required to follow these standards. Let's start with the biggest part of today's culture, social media. Social media is one of the greatest distractions, and especially in a time like this where we're limited to where we can go and when we can do it, social media is our go-to. With that being said, we really need to take control of our social media use in order to work on our self-growth. We tend to think that social media is going to make things better, but it actually makes it worse a lot of the time, and I think we can all really agree on that. We catch ourselves comparing posts to other people, like what does this person have that I don't have? And culture today says that if you want to be more, you have to show more or have more. And this can be in a material aspect or even physically. So if you feel like you have to act out a character and flex your money or wear less clothes and wear more makeup just to get what you want or who you want, then put on your glasses, because you don't have to live by these standards. This doesn't have to be your standard. So what value is added to your life by flexing your money and wearing more makeup or showing more of your body? It does not make you worth more. And so majority of us set these Twitter and Instagram models as the goal, and we want rapper money and we want to be like them, or we want to look as good as them, or we want to have the same lifestyle as them. And when we fail, we begin to feel insecure. Here's why. We will never be comfortable being someone that is not you. But remember that sometimes it's not realistic. Makeup gurus travel the world, but it's a company who is taking them. We also have to remember that a lot of these pictures are photoshopped, or they're edited, or there's filters, or a professional photographer took them. So we are striving for this image on ourselves that is not even reality. So it's important to learn how to appreciate your own looks and appreciate what you have and what you're able to do while fighting influences that will tell you you're not good enough. And another thing we can learn to do is want their confidence rather than their image, or rather than their money and their gold chains and all that other stuff. Point number 2 is for school and work. It's okay to not fit into any crowd at school or at work. For me, I never fit into any crowd in high school. I never had a group of people that I was like always with, because I was just different. I didn't fit in with any of them, and I was okay with that. I actually think it's really cool to be different, and when I was in that position, I always thought it was super cool to meet somebody else who was like me. If you're unique, be exactly that, if that's truly who you are. You don't have to be trendy, and you don't have to be like everyone else, because none of that adds value or worth to your life. And sometimes we feel like we have to act a certain way or look a certain way or think a certain way in order to be accepted, meaning wearing things we wouldn't typically wear. It's going to parties and doing drugs and drinking. If that's not something you're comfortable with, don't do it. And another thing is shit talking. For some reason, at work and at school are the two main places you hear so much shit talking. I don't know why high schoolers like to do it. I don't know why your coworkers like to do it, but it's just something we see every time we go into that environment. If that's who you are, you do you. Even though it's not good to talk bad about other people, I'm not gonna encourage it, but if that's you, I'm not gonna judge you. And most of the time when someone's acting out of pocket, it's because they want to gain acceptance from somebody who they think has a higher status than them, or someone you want to be friends with. And back in high school, I used to see this all the time, where people would hang out with other people they didn't even like because it gave them status. And even on the other end, there's people that are gonna be your friend because they want answers to the homework, or because they know you have a big house, or they know you have a car and they want you to drive them around everywhere. This is using people. Know your value and your worth, because these people will walk all over you and you cannot allow that. Don't act like someone you're not for others, because you don't owe them anything. And if you're that cool person that everyone's trying to be friends with, you don't owe them anything either. Simply be yourself. Drop the front, because we all have problems, and don't worry about who don't like you, because the people that do will be there for you, and the ones that don't is just temporary. Surround yourself only with people who really love you. Focus more on them and less on the judgment. And separate yourself from the people that have you acting out of character. Why? Because you don't have to fit the description of cool to be loved. Point number 3 is relationships. This can be family, this can be your boyfriend or your girlfriend, or this can even be close friends. And it's very, very common for us to feel like we need acceptance or approval from the people we build relationships with. So I have 3 points under relationships. The first point is relationships do not define who you are. For this one, I'm gonna stick to the example with a boyfriend or a girlfriend. So before I started working on myself, if my boyfriend at the time didn't compliment me, I would feel like I wasn't pretty enough. And so I would try my best to look as good as I could so that he would compliment me so I would feel better about myself. You don't need their compliments to make you feel good or confident. I don't even date the guy anymore. But what I had to understand is not every day comes with a guaranteed compliment. Whether you're a guy or a girl, don't depend on that one person to make you happy. Another example is whenever your significant other says bad things about you to you. When it comes down to why are you acting like all these other guys, or how come you're trying to be like every other girl, and name calling that is not appropriate. Just because they call you names or just because they try to tell you who you are does not mean that it's true. If you know who you are and you know what they're saying is false, you have nothing to worry about. Point number 2 under relationships. Your relationship does not set your standard. For this one, I'm gonna stick to family. So ages ago, I had told my cousin I wanted to get a belly button piercing. I was probably like 12. She told me that belly button piercings were only for hoes. And so I never got the belly button piercing, and I used to judge people automatically if they had one because I was told that that was for messy people. So I never wanted to get it for myself. Imagine if I would have. I already would have been titled something by my own family. And with that story, here's what you really need to understand is that people are gonna talk you down no matter how you act or what you think. Here's an example. If you go to a family function and your favorite summer outfit, if you're a guy and you were a part of that trend of really short swim trunks, your family probably thought you looked gay. Or for girls, if we wore our crop tops, it was like, you need to put more clothes on. Where's the other half of your shirt? Sometimes family will bring age into it, saying you're too old to dress like a teenager. And that can really break somebody down. Whether it's a joke or not, when you say it repeatedly, this is something that actually gets into people's heads. So wear too little, you're either gay, a hoe, or overaged. Too much, they're gonna think you look stupid because you have all these layers on, even though layers are fashion. And if you wear a good median, people are gonna be like, oh my gosh, you're trying to be perfect now, you're trying to be modest. It doesn't matter because they can't define you. You have to ask yourself, do the people I surround myself with help me feel confident? Get away from the people who drag you down, even if it means you have to distance yourself. It doesn't matter who it is. If you have to take that step back to build yourself up, then do it. Here's my last point for relationships. There's not a perfect way to have a relationship. For this, I'm gonna use friends as the example. So culture really paints this idea of the perfect friendship. So it's always like these 2 photogenic people traveling, going to Coachella, going to the gym together, Bible study. And so when you're with your friends, sometimes you might think to yourself, well, we're not doing all this cool stuff. What if I'm not that much fun? And this is where we start comparing ourselves to our friends' other friends. So you might feel less, and that's okay. Once you start comparing yourself, then you start assuming that they have a better time with their other friends, or like they'd rather be with a different person than you in that very moment. Assumption is one of the deadliest things we can do. So if we learn to lose the assumptions and the expectations that culture has placed on our lives, we will realize that people really do love us for who we are. And honestly, would you really want all your friends to be the same? Not really. We need variety and we need different types of people in our lives. So I want to provide a question that y'all can use this next week to kind of think on and answer for yourself. Do you negotiate your non-negotiables? In other words, do you have wiggle room in your standards? I have been in places where I did change my standards for somebody's attention. Girl, are you crazy? Like, are you dumb? Because you really did that. So no matter how put together someone may seem on media, it's okay to mess up. Remember to never allow yourself to be in a place where you're not valued or respected. Do not allow culture's standards to replace your own. You know what works best for you. So continue to stand ground in the standards that you have set for your own life. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you were able to pick it yourself a little bit more. I will see you next week with another video.